You needed something. You were sure of it. You got up, walked across the house, stepped into the room, and then nothing. Complete blank. You're standing there looking around like the answer is written on the wall somewhere, trying to retrace your steps, hoping something will trigger the memory back. And then it hits you. You have to walk back to where you started just to remember what you wanted. Sound familiar? This happens to almost everyone, and most people laugh it off. But what's actually happening inside your brain in that moment is far more fascinating and far more telling than you'd expect. So let's get into why you walk into a room and forget why, and what it's really saying about your brain. Here's a dark truth about how memory actually works. Your brain is not a recording device. It doesn't save everything. It constantly makes judgment calls about what's worth keeping and what gets discarded, and it makes those calls based on one thing: emotional weight. Things that carry strong emotion get remembered: fear, joy, embarrassment, love. These experiences get flagged as important and stored with clarity, but a passing thought, "I need to grab the charger," carries almost no emotional weight whatsoever, so your brain barely bothers encoding it properly in the first place. That's why you can forget something 30 seconds after thinking it. It was never stored deeply enough to survive a context switch. The moment your environment changed, the thought had nothing anchoring it in place. You didn't forget because your memory is bad. You forgot because your brain made a perfectly logical decision that the thought wasn't worth fighting for. Most people massively overestimate how much their brain can hold at once. Your working memory, the mental space where you hold active thoughts, can only manage about 4 chunks of information at a time. That's it. 4. So on any given day, your brain is juggling your to-do list, a conversation you had this morning, something you're worried about, background noise, and whatever you just saw on your phone. By the time you stand up to go get something, your working memory is already dangerously full. Adding one more step, walking to another room, is enough to bump the original thought right out. It's not aging. It's not a sign of anything serious. It's just the reality of a brain that was never designed to hold an unlimited number of thoughts simultaneously. And here's the part that really stings. The more mentally busy you are, the worse this gets. Stress, anxiety, distraction, poor sleep, all of these shrink your working memory capacity even further. This one might be uncomfortable to hear. The average person checks their phone over 90 times a day. Every single check is a context switch. Every notification pulls your brain out of one mental space and into another. And the more you train your brain to constantly switch context, the worse it gets at holding onto thoughts during any transition, including walking through a doorway. Your brain is remarkably adaptable. Whatever you repeatedly ask it to do, it gets better at. And if you spend most of your day jumping between apps, tabs, conversations, and videos, your brain becomes highly skilled at dropping one thing to pick up another. Which sounds useful until you're standing in your kitchen with no idea why you walked in there. The doorway effect is getting worse for most people, not because their brains are declining, but because their brains are being trained every single day to let go of context the moment something new appears. You've probably noticed this happens more on bad days. When you're overwhelmed, rushing, anxious, or exhausted, you forget more. Things fall through the cracks faster. You lose your train of thought mid-sentence. That's not a coincidence. When you're stressed, your brain releases a hormone called cortisol. In small amounts, cortisol is useful. It sharpens focus in genuinely dangerous situations. But when cortisol levels stay elevated, which happens with chronic stress, it starts to interfere with the hippocampus. That's the part of your brain responsible for forming and retrieving memories. Stress doesn't just make you feel scattered. It literally impairs the biological process of memory formation. So the days you most need your memory to work clearly are often the days your brain is least equipped to deliver. Here's something most people overlook entirely: memory consolidation, the process where your brain takes short-term experiences and converts them into lasting memories, happens almost entirely during sleep. During deep sleep, your brain replays the day's events, strengthens important connections, and clears out mental clutter. Skip that process. and your brain is trying to function the next day with yesterday's mental garbage still taking up space. Studies show that even one night of poor sleep significantly reduces working memory capacity, which means you start the day already operating below your brain's normal ability to hold thoughts together. So if you're regularly forgetting why you walked into rooms, one of the most powerful things you can do has nothing to do with memory techniques. It's simply getting consistent deep sleep. Your brain consumes roughly 20% of your body's total energy, despite being only 2% of your body weight. It is extraordinarily expensive to run, and because of that, your brain is constantly looking for ways to conserve energy. One of those ways is forgetting things that don't immediately seem necessary. When you walk into a room and forget why, part of what's happening is your brain running a background calculation. Is this thought still relevant? Is it worth the energy to retrieve it? If the original intention wasn't strong enough, if there was no urgency or emotion attached to it, your brain may simply decide it's not worth the processing cost to pull it back up. This is your brain being efficient, not broken, not declining, just ruthlessly practical about where it spends its limited resources. So the next time you walk into a room and forget why, stop laughing it off quite so fast. Your brain just filed away your thought, opened a new mental context, and decided the retrieval cost wasn't worth it. That's not failure. That's a 3-pound organ running millions of processes simultaneously, making split-second decisions about what deserves to survive. But now that you understand what's happening, you can work with your brain instead of against it. Write things down before you move. Say your intention out loud. Create a stronger mental anchor before you walk through the door, because your brain isn't the problem. It's just doing exactly what it was built to do. So tell me, does this happen to you more when you're stressed or tired? Let me know in the comments below. If this video helped you understand your brain a little better, hit the like button and share it with someone who needs to see this. Subscribe so you don't miss what's next. Thanks for watching.